Well, a new tell-all book called What Really Happened in Wuhan is alleging that Trump planned a 9/11 style commission to investigate the origins of the Wu flu back in 2020, and apparently his wonderful advisors talked him out of it. Now, they do provide a copy of the executive order in this book, but still take it with a grain of salt. We don't know that this is 100% true. I don't think that this has been confirmed by the people involved, which would be, Peter Navarro and Mike Pompeo and Larry Kudlow and Tom Cotton. But it certainly is something that's in line with what Trump had done for his entire administration. Trump generally had some pretty good instincts on a lot of issues, namely foreign policy, and he let his advisors push him in the direction of milquetoast establishment policy most of the time. That's why the United States didn't pull out of Afghanistan or Iraq or Syria or Yemen or Somalia or any of these, or Germany or any of these other countries that the United States doesn't belong in. Trump instinctually thought, you know what, gee, isn't that a dumb idea? Why do we even have troops in Somalia? I think that's a direct quote from Trump. And I guarantee you that none of his advisors or his generals gave him a good answer, but they gave him a stern talking to, and they said, Mr. President, those are questions you just don't ask. That's like questioning why we have to support Israel no matter what they do. That's not something that you ask. You go along with it, you nod your head, and you say, yes, we're always going to be at war. Yes, we're always going to support Israel. And yes, we're never going to talk about the origins of the Wu flu. And we definitely are not going to say anything or imply anything that would implicate the wonderful and oh so virtuous Chinese Communist Party, or any of their collaborators here in the U.S., such as Peter Daszak or Anthony Fauci. And so when presented with this very persuasive appeal to authority, the President of the United States, someone who many people would probably regard as the highest authority figure in America, potentially the world, he was convinced, and he was plenty happy to submit to the authority of his underlings. And so because of that, Trump dropped the lab leak stuff. He dropped talking about the Wu flu. I think he still kind of called it the China virus, but without much substance to it. He just liked to say China virus. And so that was very easy for the PC left to just sort of smear, oh, he's saying that because he's racist. He's not serious. He doesn't care about science. He doesn't care about people getting sick. He just cares about China. Whereas had they had some kind of a commission that looked into all this, that exposed some of the obvious evidence that is now pretty well understood now by the general public. I saw a very interesting preliminary data from a poll that's being conducted by Richard Barris today. And in his raw data, which, by his own admission seems to, at this point, he hasn't weighted it properly yet, but it seems to skew left and metropolitan, as he put it. But it was like 70% of people, or over 60%, I think, 60-something percent, that thinks that this came from a lab one way or another. So, we've crossed the Rubicon as far as that's concerned. There's no going back to the bat soup theory, which, I'm glad to throw that one into the dustbin of history. But this is something that, Trump should have investigated last year. He should have done this commission. And the fact that he didn't is just another pot mark on his administration. And the fact that he, as a leader, even if he has decent instincts, he is not someone who can lead. He has no leadership skills. He defers to very unimpressive people. I mean, Larry Kudlow seems like a nice enough guy. I used to watch his show on CNBC back in the day. But, that's not somebody who intellectually is a very formidable person. I mean, if you have a disagreement with Larry Kudlow on something like this, and he's able to, so thoroughly beat you in that argument that he convinces you to reverse your stance, your beliefs are not very well grounded. I'll put it that way. Because I don't know what Larry Kudlow, and I'm using him as an avatar, because he is he's a Wall Street guy. And these Wall Street guys, they don't want to upset the apple cart with regard to China. There's been a lot of intermingling with, the CCP and financial establishment here in the United States. That's why so many Wall Street guys, were pushing Biden to run, supposedly behind the scenes. And so Kudlow, I wouldn't call him like a CCP puppet or something like that. I wouldn't say that at all. But I just mean his interests and the interests of the people that he represents certainly would not want to expose any wrongdoing by the Chinese government, even if that was in partnership with the American government. If you're Donald Trump, however, and you're president of the United States and you want to win re-election and you don't just care about doing what's in the best interests of Wall Street, you would go ahead with this commission anyway. I guess Trump wanted Tom Cotton to head it up, which I guess was fine. Tom Cotton was one of the first guys I remember talking about the lab leak stuff, and right now it's more Rand Paul who's getting a lot of the spotlight as far as that's concerned. I don't care who it is, whatever, just have somebody who actually, legitimately cares about the issue. If they had them get on it and do a lot of these public hearings and things, which, we have to remember, congressional hearings and commissions, like this are, they're theater, much like the masks are theater, but they're useful in that they can draw a lot of public attention towards an important issue, and it's a good way for fleshing out legitimate information that the public should know. That's part of Congress's job, or at least it should be. Now, apparently, part of all this, there was a plan for Trump to advocate for some sort of reparations bill, a law essentially saying that China needs to pay the United States damages for the pandemic that was inflicted upon the United States. And of course, such bill would be purely symbolic. But again, this would have been an important thing to campaign on. It would have been a way to counter the existing argument, which, you guys might not remember last year, but the big argument against Trump was that, he's soft. Is that he wanted the virus to win. He was not hawkish enough on germs. That was kind of how the mentality behind it was. He wasn't tough enough on it. He didn't care. He was like Obama with Al Qaeda. Obama, he was soft on those terrorists because Obama, wink wink nudge nudge, must be a secret Muslim. Well, Trump, wink wink nudge nudge, was probably a secret virus. And so if you could turn this around in any way and change the paradigm of the argument, that's how you win. You want to set the terms of the discussion. That is how you win an argument. If you let the other side set the parameters for the debate, they're going to win every single time. And so I guess with these sorts of revelations that we've been getting since Trump left office about how he was badgered by the foreign policy establishment and the generals and things, how they mutinied against him and pushed him into recanting his order to withdraw the troops, and now how he was convinced by his dumb advisors that he himself hired, that he chose to hire, to back out and to become soft on China and not talk about the reality of the Wu flu. This to me proves that Trump is incapable of leading any real anti-establishment movement. I just don't think he has the stomach for it. He might be a good entertainer, which I maintain that he is. I've always enjoyed watching Trump on TV. I watched The Apprentice back in the day. His tweets were fun back when he was on Twitter. Now that he's not on Twitter, I don't have a lot of use for Trump, I'll be honest. He's not bringing me any joy. And he just plainly isn't cut out for this. He doesn't have a very strong will about anything. He just doesn't care. And I'm not even saying that he should pick up a book, because I do think that's asking too much. I don't expect Trump to pick up a book anytime soon and actually learn about these things for himself. But, when you have when you surround yourself with people who just tell you to go along with whatever the establishment narrative is at any given time, and your whole ethos is, hey, I'm the anti-establishment guy, you need to hire new people. You need to not hire these kinds of people. And he had 4 years to figure this out, and guess what? He didn't learn. Look at the people who he surrounds himself with now. They're just hacks. They're grifters. He doesn't have anyone interesting around him. I mean, when's the last time that you saw Donald Trump sitting next to Pat Buchanan or somebody like that? When's the last time that Donald Trump picked up the phone and called Paul Gottfried to see what his thoughts were on what was going on, on any given week? I mean, these are the kinds of, smart people who are somewhat have an affinity for Trump, who were similar to him, ideologically, supposedly, who he should have been talking to, who should have been his brain trust, and he doesn't even know they exist. Well, I guess except for Pat Buchanan, but still, I'm shocked the way that Pat Buchanan, after the election, was just sort of pushed aside and never seen again. I mean, where is he? But on the bright side, now that Trump is gone, the media has less of an incentive to lie and cover these sorts of things up. As we've already seen, it's no longer a partisan issue, the lab leak thing. It is a bipartisan consensus. As Richard Barris's public polling project will show. The poll is not published yet. He was giving a sort of a preview before the finalized results are in. But very clearly was overwhelming that everyone accepts lab leak now. And whether this was an intentional release of a bioweapon or not, regardless, the Chinese government is culpable for what happened. I talked about last year, hey, there are reports about this particular lab having safety concerns from the international community. These are English language sources that we were able to find that said, hey, their safety practices at this lab are not very good, and there could be an escape of a virus or some other kind of contagion from this facility into the local Wuhan area. And that's something that the Chinese government should address, and that apparently they never did address. So with that said, I think I'll end it off there for today.